Welcome to the Reawakening Ancient Feminine Wisdom in Pregnancy, Birth, and Motherhood Summit. I'm your host, Nancy Lucina, and today Jocelyn Gordon will be joining us. Having studied and trained and taught dance, yoga, and massage therapy, Jocelyn's offerings provide a multidisciplinary approach, making self-care, self-restoration, and self-realization accessible, enjoyable, and relevant to the modern woman. She is passionate about birth, conscious conception, feminine leadership, and embodied joy, and provides preconception well-being and birth your best life coaching programs. In today's conversation, Jocelyn shares with us the 4 pillars of preconception, how we can best prepare our mind, body, and spirit to become channels for new life. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today we have with us Jocelyn Gordon from jocelyn.gordon.com. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation to be here.
I'm so excited about our topic today because it's only come up in like 1 or 2 other interviews, and today we're going to dive deep into it. So I want to start out by asking you, what do you consider to be the 4 pillars of preconception, being prepared to conceive? And like, what do you really mean also by preconception? You know, how far before you actually conceive do you consider that?
Sure. So the focus is on the space about 3 months to 12 years. Not 12 years, but 12 months before you act. It could be that long, but 3 months to 12 months before a couple or a woman actually tries for conception.
Mm-hmm.
So that phase where you're thinking about getting pregnant, however, you're not actually trying, I see as a very potent space for improving one's health and the type of up-leveling your health that affects your cells, your eggs. Hopefully your partner is involved in this. And it's the kind of health that could potentially affect 3 to 7 generations forward, which is what epigenetic science is showing us. It's possible that we can really create positive change in our lives by working with science and nutrition to manipulate our genetic structure for health. So there's that, and then there's also the aspects of being spiritually prepared, being mindfully prepared, and being energetically prepared and connected with whatever the energies are that want to be birthed coming through you. So it's also a very potent time to communicate with, if you're open to that, to the energy of the being that wants to come through you. So it's kind of like parenting happening before the seed and the ovum have actually met, and it's a really ripe time. So you mentioned the 4 pillars of preconception preparedness. I identify them as preconception detoxification, or minimizing your toxic load. And I guess we'll go through those in a moment. Fertility optimization, conscious conception and parenting preparation, as well as exquisite self-care and stress management. So, yeah, those are the 4 pillars.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So you started with the toxic overload, or like minimizing that. Do you want to give us a little bit more detail of each of these 4 pillars?
Sure. So unfortunately, we live in a highly chemicalized environment now here on Earth. There's an abundance of plastics, petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, and just other environmental toxins, which studies are showing, and it's really interesting how like breast milk is showing up with like flame retardants in it.
Oh, wow.
I know it's really intense. Cord blood is showing up with a variety of toxins like dioxins, which is a common chemical in sanitary napkins, tampons, those kind of things, as well as in food and fish. So, and then, you know, we're all dealing with like off-gassing in our cars and our products on our planes. So there's a lot, and it's not about being scared, although the evidence is overwhelming. It's just kind of like the reality of living in the modern world. There is a chemical human chemical as well as human technical interface.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the ways that you can in the preconception phase to help your body do what it naturally does, which is happening all the time, metabolization and detoxification.
Mm-hmm.
So, doing away with, I have to eliminate all toxins in my life because it's, honestly, I don't really know how that's feasible right now.
Mm-hmm.
However, harnessing your body's ability to release in a very healthful way prior to conception, prior to pregnancy. And that's one of the things I'm passionate about. And I'm grateful to my mentors and just my own studies over 20 to 30 years as a natural health advocate, primarily in my own household, kind of like informing my mom, like, Mom, going vegetarian when I was 16.
Uh-huh.
And with my 17-year, I call it amazing because I don't like old. I love old. It's just that I'm challenging what old means in my own mindset. So my 17-year amazing daughter was actually diagnosed with eczema just days after she was born.
Okay.
And there's a few reasons the main reason for that, I know, is because I gave her a bath when she came home as kind of like this ritual, like there's some kind of ritual, like the baby's first bath.
Right.
But at that time, I wasn't aware of just like how powerful like that cheesy coating is that naturally is there, present at birth, and what a wonderful lubricant, and it's just so healthful. So anyway, inadvertently, I kind of stripped her of that wise wax. She developed eczema, and the nurse practitioner said, "I'll just prescribe you with a topical anti-steroid." Well, I knew at that time that I didn't want to put a topical a steroidal product on my child, especially days into her life. I knew that those products were based in petrochemicals. I knew that petrochemicals can disrupt hormone receptor sites. So I'm grateful to my teachers and mentors and the research I had done at that time to kind of like look into alternative options and to kind of avoid those things. So I'm giving you a feminine path of sharing.
Yeah, no, I love it. It's what this whole summit's all about, natural organic sharing. Yeah, but that's how we learn too, through these experiences. And it is so nice that you were already informed of this kind of stuff when you had your first daughter, right?
Well, I'm just very grateful that I could walk that path. I know that for many women and couples, this information could be overwhelming. What do I use? Like,
right.
Like get my hair dyed. Like I like my makeup. Like
right.
I like my like we just bought a brand new car seat. It's all awesome. So I want to honor women and couples who maybe they're just stepping on this path, and to acknowledge that there can be overwhelm, and to just take what you can. Generally what I do is, from every workshop that I attend or a seminar like yours, is I really just try to receive 3 morsels of wisdom, because there's just so much information being shared, and at some point the container's like flatline. So
right.
take 3 morsels of wisdom and just starting where you are.
Yeah.
To implement change. Yeah. Well, I can go on.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was thinking with that pillar, like, I guess, yeah, if someone is kind of new, or like, well, what does that really look like? What do you think of really simple 1 or 2 things they could do?
Thank you for asking that. Well, there's a few things. There's like the very scientific aspects of preconception detoxification, which is a longer conversation, and like different phases for wherever the woman or couple is in her readiness to actually conceive. So that's a different conversation related to like hormones and things like that. I would say, in terms of lifestyle, focus on minimizing your toxic load. So this is not uncommon, like shifting over your household products from the more common highly chemicalized products, doing your research to find those without sodium lauryl sulfates, starting to look at your cosmetics, looking at parabens, looking at phthalates, and just starting to do your research there, shifting if you're using like kind of mainstream sanitary napkins or tampons, starting to educate yourself on dioxins, that's like the bleach that makes the cotton white.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at your personal hygiene
Mm-hmm.
and where your investments are there, I would say start shifting, and maybe even just on the menstrual level, like
Mm-hmm.
some women now are using cups and
Mm-hmm.
other kind of like reusable, and I think they're great. Actually, cups don't work for me at the moment because they like pull down my cervix and makes life really uncomfortable for my body. Because I think it's really powerful to have that interaction with one's uterus and blood during one's menstrual time. So I'm going to say number one, just do your research in terms of your menstrual hygiene, and then your household cleansing agents.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you get confident there in those shifts, and it's like, your world isn't overly altered,
Mm-hmm.
looking at your cosmetics, finding if you're using like hair dye, just researching organic hair color and hairstylists, start
Mm-hmm.
making shifts there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. And the second pillar was, I'm having a hard time recalling.
I also have notes. Fertility optimization.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, related as well to like the diet and supplementation. Like we know we're supposed to have B vitamins.
I'm having a hard time hearing.
I need to speak up. We know this relates to your diet. Everything, nothing in these pillars is like isolated. It's all very interwoven.
Uh-huh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and ultimately, to me, it's kind of extreme self-care.
Okay, right.
Depth of intimacy with yourself, with your cycles.
Yeah, that's what came up for me. Sorry to interrupt. When you were talking about the moon cup or like maybe cloth pads instead of, using tampons, it's like it whenever you start to research this kind of stuff, it puts you really so much more in touch with your body and in touch with your cycle, and you're really working with your womb energy and you're understanding, especially that part of your body, that's so obviously connected to conception. I think it's a huge part of the journey to really become aware of your cycles and what you're actually putting in your body in that way. And then that does lead to self-care, right? Naturally.
Exactly. And curiosity. I'm like, just even touching your body. Like I palpate my cervix regularly, maybe daily. There's the family awareness method, which does come under fertility optimization. So being aware of your menstrual cycle, knowing your ovulatory cycles.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several ways you can do that through charting. I like to use a physical piece of paper and I chart. Sometimes I bore my husband with conversations or just random outbursts of what I noticed.
Totally.
I noticed about a week before I start bleeding for 3 days, I really don't want to hear anything he has to say. And I find the whole household environment to be really irritating.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I find that to be revolutionary, not just that we hear about premenstrual stress or whatever, but just being without labeling, just noticing what's true for you. And then this is a first world privilege, but creating the confidence and like the script and the language to ask for it. So, the last few months I've been asking for my daughter and my husband to take Sienna off on a little trip and go have a little child father adventure time for a couple of nights in that space where things get a little wonky.
Yeah.
Not even wonky, but just very clear that I need my own space.
Yep. It's the internal phase. Exactly.
Yeah. Which creates peace for everybody.
This is exactly right. Totally. I've been tracking my cycles for about 5 years, and it has completely revolutionized like my whole life, honestly. Yeah, it's a subject that I also really love to teach on, and that particular phase is so misunderstood, Yeah.
And then you already know, as an entrepreneur and business visionary, is like creation with the cycle and those times where maybe it's time to go quiet and the times
Yeah,
where it's to take action.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so then in fertility optimization, which can be, the wisdom can be used for conceiving or for not conceiving there. So like we mentioned, charting. One thing that worked really well for me was uterine self-massage. And
Mm.
about a year before I wanted to conceive, I worked with a woman who helped me identify that my uterus was retroflexed and like leaning to the side,
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
looking out to the right. So I started self-care massage that helped to help regulate my periods, and I was having menstrual discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
And after 3 months of that, once that was regulated, then, she reminded me, this could be a really fertile space for you. So, again, getting hands-on with your body,
Mm-hmm.
educating on these self-care techniques, which are really, really nourishing. I
Mm-hmm.
also mentioned optimal nutrition, like increasing our B vitamins, other forms of supplementation, working with experts who can support any kind of hormonal imbalances and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and improving gut health, which is so phenomenal. All of the research that's coming out about the gut microbiome for our
Mm-hmm.
overall immune, reducing inflammation, and also with menstrual pain,
Mm-hmm.
that's so common, unfortunately. I'm actually working with enzymes now rather than, pain relievers, enzymes and turmeric. It's
Mm.
phenomenal, the results I'm personally experiencing. So I'm looking at my notes. Fertility optimization includes hormone balance, menstrual cycle intimacy, optimal nutrition, improving gut health, ultimately helping to reduce inflammation and address stress, as well as to bring your womb online, because many of us in our childbearing years for years or decades, it's like, I don't want to get pregnant, and we're using
Yeah.
contraception not
Yeah.
prepared.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. It takes some time for the body to hear the yes, right?
exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, well, the body will, or the consciousness feels the yes, and now we have to coax and invite the body under.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
No, 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 no. So, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
actually, this might be TMI for my 17-year amazing daughter, but however, last summer, we were talking about her own, just like where she was feeling and her sexuality and like her desire for a relationship.
Mm.
And she said she was ready for a sexual relationship. And I said, well, how do you know that? I don't actually remember what she said, which is probably good because I don't want to further embarrass her. But I felt that a good benchmark would be like how intimate she is with her own menstrual and ovulatory cycles. I was
Mm.
like, if you are willing to go there and develop that intimacy and track, with an app and, and on paper, and that
Mhm.
you become exquisitely connected to those dynamics, I would say that that could be a personal benchmark for you to say, I'm
Mm.
kind of ready to go
Mm.
there. I said, because as soon as you start engaging in sexual activity,
Yeah.
every woman, even if she's on the pill, every month it's like, oh my gosh, am I pregnant?
Right.
No matter
Yeah. Yeah.
no
I
matter
know.
how many contraceptive devices you use, it's like,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
being prepared psychologically for that, kind of where
Mm.
your energy is going to go biologically every month is like, it's a huge thing. So,
Mhm. Mhm.
hopefully I didn't embarrass my baby girl.
Oh. So we had like taking away as many toxins as we can, optimizing nutritionally, and self-care really going hand in hand, and also minimizing stress you mentioned as well. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. Well, that one I kind of included in my fourth pillar, but the
Ah,
third
okay. So we're gonna get to that.
is all woven, like I said.
Yeah, totally,
So,
totally.
so like minimizing toxic load, and activating the detoxification response, fertility optimization, and for me, the third one is conscious conception and parenting preparedness.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm currently in New Zealand, and I'm like this like amateur researcher looking at the consciousness around birth and pregnancy here and preconception pregnancy or preconception awareness. And it's kind of like, well, duh, like you do it. Just like an interesting yet curious look on other spaces, like, well, like you do it, and you get, that's preconception awareness.
Right.
Which is awesome because that means there's an opportunity here. No offense to the cuties at all. So to me, conscious conception includes the physiological things we're talking about and kind of like those 3D dynamics with more of mental, mind, and heart and spirit preparation. In particular, which I feel is very important, is looking at ancestral patterns of trauma and disease. So yeah, looking in our own stories, it's kind of part of the human condition that there is, you know, some kind of trauma or sharp experiences in one's life that may have shaped us, and as well as our nervous system and how we relate to our environment. So looking at those patterns in a really safe container, looking at them across timelines, because there's often patterns in our lineages, like that something we experience, maybe our mothers experienced, grandmothers, that kind of thing through the gene genealogy, and also not just looking at not looking at them to like create more tension or drama, but to, and by drama I mean that lovingly. I don't mean create anyone's experience. But looking at those patterns as an opportunity to heal. Like when I came into consciousness in this life and I observed some of the dynamics between my mom and my grandmother and her mother, I observed jealousy and betrayal. I didn't have the words for it then, but I felt something that in my innocence, I said, it stops with me. Whatever this is, it stops here. And so I felt that desire for a very long time. And then also the pain and discomfort, because a lot of this stuff is really deep. So it's like the frontal lobe desire mixed with the reptilian brain reactivity. And like, oh my gosh, I just replicated that pattern. So learning forgiveness, activating forgiveness and compassion. So looking at those things that might be pardon a bit tough to look at, but when we do, it just creates so much loss in me, because we don't, you know, I don't want to project forward some of those pain, tension, trauma cycles. And there's also wisdom in them. So like, what did I learn? What can we learn that we can apply, you know, to how we parent? Addressing birth trauma, either like our own, looking at our own birth stories. Some of the hypnosis practices do this. I offer timeline therapy. Looking at your own conception story, if you know that, or meditating into that and the energies that are there. I have one sister who I know, she was conceived through rape, and she's a highly successful, very kind of proactive person in the world, and it's amazing. And there's also like this drive in there from that knowledge to like validate her existence through high achievement or overachievement. So this is kind of like getting into some deeper things, but when we do look at our own birth trauma, when we do look at our ancestral patterns of disease, it's kind of like it's internal spring cleaning, and it's not necessarily like there's something that happens once. It's a shedding and unfolding. But when we do that, we can minimize what scientists are calling psychological birth traumas, which are known to contribute to postpartum depression, some child-infant development issues, mothers feeling depleted, having anxiety. So these kind of going into the deeper, like the soil, the yin, the dark places where actually fertility happens.
Yeah.
And we kind of like do that thing that we need to recreate a more fertile template, which has real effects: conception, birth, pregnancy, and parenting, to make it overall a more joyful, positive experience.
Beautiful. I love the way you put that, like going into the soil. Yeah, that's really, and that can be really challenging. And I love that you mentioned forgiveness. That's something that's really come through for me in the past few years, is forgiveness is how we work with karma, you know, period. Like, and it's so hard when we're the ones involved and we have to forgive ourselves. That
Yeah,
seems to be kind of the hardest, right?
that's so big. I'm like, that's the whole conversation.
Yeah, totally.
Forgiveness. I once heard Lisa Nichols say that most of the day we spend our energy blaming, shaming, and hiding.
Mm,
What would life be like if we were, had exercised doing other things with our energy?
mm,
What would our relationships be like?
mm-hmm,
And it also depends on your belief system, because if I truly believe that I kind of chose my parents, if you believe
mm-hmm,
in sacred contracts,
mm-hmm,
all the blaming I can do all day long, eventually it comes back to, if I have that belief system, I chose this,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which can be really empowering. And it can also be kind of like
Yeah.
you just kind of like forced to let go of
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
all that tension and projection.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And on this pillar, when you talked about being prepared as a parent, were you meaning this kind of work, or was there something else more specific?
Well, that's inclusive. Also looking at your parenting vision. So it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like your birth plan.
Yeah.
Both like your own ideals. Like currently my husband and I were working on our relationship vision, individually coming together and to share. I have my vision board up there, but creating a vision board, perhaps creating a vision board for, through your own intimacy with, like, how do you want to parent? What are your core parenting values?
Mm.
And then creating that with your partner and getting clear on some, like, talking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Communication. Because it's easy to stay in, like, we're gonna have a baby.
Yep.
But
And then it
what
just
about all
slaps
that
you. Yeah. That's a really, really good idea. And I think that that probably would reduce like some of the stress that happens on relationships if you were prepared in that way, at least with a vision. And then, of course, life happens and you might have to readjust. But, you go in with a similar vision. That must be really helpful. Because I know that a lot of relationships are like, wait, whoa. And the foundation totally gets rocked, when we have babies. So.
Or maybe the foundation wasn't even that established.
Also, and it points that out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, true.
exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
looking at and making that fun too. I know that when
Mm.
couples are trying to conceive, and most of my clients right now are 35 and up and are either in the process of some kind of medical intervention like IUI, or
Mhm.
have been told that they need medical intervention because of their age.
Okay.
Um, and so a lot of those clients right now, they've done their preconception detox, they've done their fertility optimization. They're really on point on top of those things. So right now we're really working on fear release,
Mm.
um, related to parenting, soul communication. One of my clients had a connection with her child where her child felt like, I want to be there with you, and I'm scared. I'm scared to come to
Uh,
Earth. Like,
uh-huh. Uh-huh.
it's kind of intense down there.
Yeah.
So we had a dialogue around that, and that was like a few days after our session, where some other amazing connection and communication had come through. But like the relief
Mm.
of that you can have that connection with
Mm.
these beings,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the energetic relief on both sides. And where do I want to go with this? Again, my belief system is in sacred contracts, and as our mutual friend Cara Maria Ananda shared with me, she believes all pregnancies and conceptions are conscious conceptions, whether they were accidents, or whether they were planted in the way that we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
is much we learn from each other, and we can start learning ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's also part of the conscious conception, is that communication
Mm-hmm.
with the soul being.
Mm-hmm.
discussing intimacy and sexuality, creating that container for more juiceful lovemaking. Like it seems that in the fertility conversation, it kind of just gets really, what do you call it? There's a word that's not coming up, but it becomes very medicalized and not
kind of dry, right?
Yeah, we don't want dry.
Yeah, we don't want dry. I know. Yeah, like this hyper focus kind of like goal focus, I don't know, it's like you got to shake it up a little bit and drop into that surrendered space to be able to conceive.
Get back into the yin.
It's hard too, because I think everybody, when you're trying to conceive, people tell you that you just got to relax and let go. Like, yeah. When you want it so bad, it's hard.
And like the goal, the reward is so big. Like it's like a reward, like this physical being.
Yeah.
I did, in doing this work and coming out in this work, it's like, well, what are the outcomes? Because I can't guarantee, conception. Like what are the outcomes?
Right.
And kind of shifting what those outcomes are to deeper intimacy with oneself and more space because of the healing that's happened, and therefore hopefully improving relationships, but ultimately remembering who we are, because I feel that in conscious conception, where that the souls coming in, that we do remember. They come in knowing, especially the beings that are coming in now, they come in knowing who they are, why they're here, what they're supposed to do, or, if you choose to subscribe to that. Whereas many of us are like sloughing up all this stuff. It's like, I know, I remember in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Like, that's what I want to give as a mother, that gift of, here's the ground you can stand on to then like really fly and be who you are, instead of like doing all of this healing work for like 30 years, right? And yet, of course, there's still things that I pass on and I'm like, dang, that's just how it goes, right? But the more we can do that, like you said, the easier time they can have like accessing that deep memory of their purpose here. I think that's so beautiful. I'm so aligned with that.
And in that, I feel like in the communication that I've had before Sienna was conceived is even the shift from parenting, because I feel like that's an old paradigm where there's not the authoritative figure and then there's the child who's in a diminished place. And I do feel like there definitely needs to be clear boundaries in relationships, and children need safety and they need to know that they can trust you to take the lead. And I feel like that there's a shift from parenting paradigm to guardianship. And it's less like, to me, parenting is like, you do what you're told to do. And guardianship is like, I inherently trust that you know on a deep soul level who you are and the walk you need to take in this world. And that I'm going to provide you with like all those tools, that I can. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, shelter, water, all that stuff, and up to help you just live the truth that you already know that you are, and that these are wise ancient souls. And in that, they require, this is my very woo-woo side coming out, and I'm still coming out with it, Nancy.
I love it.
But it's something that I personally experienced, is that in that, with these high vibe beings coming in, they need high vibe containers. On the energetic level, on the physical level, like we need to upgrade our health on all levels, like all the ways we're talking about, to create sacred containers for the energies that are coming through to help create and transform in the ways that you already know about, like peaceful birth, peaceful earth. And it's very revolutionary, these peaceful birth practices, and then there we have this preconception peaceful revolution happening.
Yeah.
They want to come in, the time is now, and change is happening. And they're still coming in, but how much easier would it be, and how much more joyful if like parents are having conversations at this level, and like if we're just so healthy to the best of our ability to say yes. Otherwise we can like experience more depletion or, you know, uncertainty, and just an amplification of some of the already intense challenges that come with strong initiations like childbirth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really want to see if we have time to get to your own journey, because I know it's really fascinating. But I want to make sure that we cover, you mentioned about stress. So I know that that's a huge one. And like, yeah, I definitely go through my own journey with it, you know, and I always remind myself like, okay, this is the last time I'm going to stress out. This is the last time I'm going to go there. And I still find myself going there. And I'm like, man, this is a really hard one to, like, stress exists, but how do we respond in a way that isn't harmful to our bodies? And I know that there's many tools and techniques, but if you want to just give us your top, you know, 1-2 to share, I think that'd be really valuable. Because regardless of if you're already pregnant and watching this, if you're already a mom and watching this, right? Like, this is something that we can all use, how to work with stress.
And it's not static.
No. Yeah.
Not like I've overcome stress,
right?
And all things need stress to grow. Like,
yes,
it's the, you know, the activational essence that bursts the flower from the soil. So we kind of need it. Support, though, that's a huge one. Mothers groups, networks, you know, even if a woman's going through medical support to get pregnant, communicating with other women in that same space, but also really, this was important to me as a woman over 35. I conceived Sienna at 41.
Okay.
Just making sure you're hearing positive birth stories. Like, don't stay ignorant, you know, but just be mindful that even when you're pregnant, they say only listen to positive pregnancy stories, you know. When I was getting ready for my partner, I really became aware of the music on the radio or just mainstream music. It's just really misogynistic. It's
right.
Really, just kind of overall negative and not uplifting. It's codependent. It's just kind of really icky. So filling up your space, your environment with, just like you would at your birth, beautiful sounds, beautiful energies, more beauty. There's feng shui practices for fertility as well that create more harmony through that science in your household. But I would say the number one, especially for women over 35, would be to get support. My mom calls it the sandwich generation, where, you know, a woman over 35 has aging parents and she usually has younger children, and then she has her own self-care, biological, professional needs. And so it's like a lot of pressure.
Right.
A lot of intensity. So finding support in that time through community, researching child helpers. If you can afford childcare, get it. Like, get all the support that you can.
Yeah.
Especially if you can kind of like, in my group yogini teacher training program, the very first module is about establishing your practice and looking at obstacles, like what could be the obstacles for you moving forward and accomplishing your goals, whether it's finishing a yoga practice or teacher training or something else, like job stress, elder needs, partnership illness, moving, as much as you can, knowing that we can't control everything, and then knowing your own mindset, because you know, I'm really good on project to project basis, but long-term stuff just freaks me out. So like looking at your own personal dynamics realistically and kind of doing what you can to elicit a support system that works at a time.
Creating the conditions. And
that's what coaches are great for, like the work that you're offering and that I'm offering, like coaches can help with that. I also mentioned positive conception stories. There's the things like just radical self-care. So like when you are in your fertility optimization, when you're looking at your schedules, your cycle, knowing when you need space, you know, and honoring that and doing what you can ahead of time to create that container for yourself, that radical nourishment. The healthy gut stuff in science is really, really just profound. And so diving into that, even like when I'm under stress, I also increase my probiotic intake. So I'm gonna get some flies in here. So oh, my mother-in-law is that I can't. My mother-in-law is looking to see if I'm available for a call. But yeah, so kind of improving gut health in terms of stress, so doing what you can to nourish your immune system when you are in an activated space. I've become acutely aware that when my negative space, my mind space stays negative, this doesn't mean spiritually bypassing, but I do know that I have negative patterns of self-talk, and I can feel their effects on my physical body.
Yeah.
It's poisonous. It's toxic.
Yeah.
So finding ways that you can kind of shift those energies, like having a joy list of things that help you shift, like if it's hula hooping or a 3-song dance or taking a walk,
Yep.
that kind of thing, using your essential oils, lighting a candle, whatever, orgasm, just and giving yourself permission to activate those.
Yeah, I love that. So I have something my husband and I do, which we call them expand me cards. And we have these cards that we make them the size of credit cards, and we write 5 things that will expand us, and we have them in our wallet. And that's kind of like the joy list, right? And so if you're ever in that space of contraction and stress, you can take out your card and go, okay, I need to go sit at my altar and breathe in some essential oils. I need to go for a walk, like whatever it is, because we all have our own ways of expanding.
Yeah. And doing it.
And actually doing it. That's where another person, like, support is really helpful. Because when you're in that space of contraction and stress, it's so hard to do the thing that's going to get you out of it, because it has such a momentum of its own. So that's it's really like my partner and I both have those cards. So he's like, hey, look at your card. And even my daughter's in on it too. Like, mommy needs her expand me card right now. So I'm like, okay, I don't have any excuse, It's so funny. It works.
Dear mommy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, do you feel, I would love to hear your story if you could share with us. We have a few more minutes. Did you feel complete with the pillars?
I feel complete.
Okay, cool.
I have like 4 pages of notes. That's enough, and you can let people know how they can get in contact.
Exactly.
Yes. So, well, as I mentioned, I have a 17-year amazing daughter. She is just truly fantastic, and like I said, I told you in our pre-interview that when she was about 5, I knew I could feel this other being with me. So for a very long time, I felt this, and I say it over here because that's where I felt the being. I felt this energy.
Yeah.
So at the time, I wasn't partnered. So we would just have these random conversations occasionally. And my daughter, she's very astute spiritually and otherwise. And we talk about when the baby comes and the next baby is coming. And it would be based on when mommy finds her right partner and that kind of thing. And I knew that what was my age? Maybe it doesn't really matter, but I was 41. And I've been teaching around the world for a few years, dance, movement arts, movement therapy. And one of my stops over the years was Bali, Indonesia, a place that we have in common. And it's a space where I always felt like really vital and activated and and inspired.
Bali totally brings that out.
And also quite transformational. I'd come home from those trips and like life would change in really big ways. So when I was getting ready for my person, because that's a whole nother manifestation healing journey. But when I was getting ready for my person, I felt that I needed to be in that space where I felt most activated, alive, and all of that. And my daughter had an interest in going to the green school. So on her 13th birthday, we were on a plane moving to Bali, Indonesia. About 2 months later, I met my person, my partner, Jody, and we were just on the same page. I was actively dating, and really, like, if I went on a date, I'd let the person know, like there's a baby coming, and
I love that. Oh my God, that's so funny.
like, I'm walking, my divine right partner and I, we are walking to each other right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe because of my age, but otherwise too, is like, let's just not play around with
Get to the point. Yeah, totally.
So, and we're on the exact same page. It was really beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah. So Papa showed up, and he bought these little shoes. This is probably about 9 months to a year before she was born. He was in Australia. He bought these little shoes
Uh-huh.
on his own accord, and he had his own, like, kind of altar, so to speak. I don't know if they call it that, but that was
Right.
like his altar component. He's a musician, so he started just being open to the music, and shared a beautiful story about how some African tribes, it's the man who creates, the father who creates the birth song and brings it to the mom, and that's the song, you know. So he was really, really involved. And so for about a year, I worked with my body, my hormones, as well as some deeper, some of the things, some of the unpacking work. Bali is very, if you want to look at these archetypes, very Kali energy to me.
Yeah.
She looks very pretty, and she's all about the arts, and it's so abundantly plush. And she's also like off with your head.
Totally.
And, yeah. So.
Yep. It's this vortex energy that really does transform you. So true.
And it wasn't really pleasant. Like, I had a beautiful conception story, but there were times where, like, my head was on the table, and just deep connection to a depth of self-loathing that I had no idea. Like, I was like, really? Is this mine? And
wow.
a lot of shadow intensity. And at the same time, this bittersweetness of being in love and being in communication with our daughter. So there's so many stories along that. We had some I don't know what aspects of the story that you want. I'm like,
well, yeah, I think it's just beautiful to hear a little bit about how the spirit followed you around, and how she was with you for actually many years. 12?
15.
15. Wow. So I feel like that's actually can be really inspiring for women who have in their heart the sense of, I know that I'm meant to have a baby. Why isn't it happening now? Why isn't it happening now? Why isn't it happening now? You know? So I think that that's kind of the main, like, essence that I was hoping to come across through your story.
And also that I had an abortion when I was 18, and that being I know, you know, it's not uncommon, you know, that women have abortions or miscarriages or still other losses in the birth line. And that being communicated with me through dreams for many years, a boy often, you know, it hasn't come up recently, but one of the gifts in Bali, I worked with a healer there, and it just came up. He said, we need to do ceremony. Bali, you know, ceremony. For this child that was aborted, and I was in a yes space, so we offered ceremony and had the healing, because their belief system, or this particular shaman, is that aborted child, if it's not acknowledged in a certain way, or if that soul is hovering around, I think he said something like it could wreak havoc in the mind of the mother and provide a spiritual disturbance of the child for the children who are already on the planet. So that was a profound journey as well. So there's something to offer, just to that we can create space to acknowledge those losses as well. And there are other energies that want to come through as well. Like, there's another, in some of my frequency shifts, before conception, I saw 2 souls, and I was like, whoa, Billy, oh my gosh. And even if that second soul doesn't come through, my husband and I already have a name for that energy. It's more like a value or quality of being that we want to cultivate in our home and in our lives. So even, you know, even if that energy doesn't come forth into physical form as a human being, there are other energetics that want to be birthed through you. So just being open to that as well.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, we're running out of time here, unfortunately, but before I get to my very last question, I would love to hear about your current offerings, especially around this topic, because I know that you do many different things, but yeah, specifically for women who are trying to conceive, or yeah, whatever you have to offer in this area.
Well, I feel just too, I think I said I was 41, but I'm going to be 44 next month.
Oh,
I want to
wow.
clarify that I was 41 when Sienna
When
came.
you actually conceived. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is also really inspiring for women who may be watching in that journey.
And with no pregnancies that I knew of between 26 to 21. So I offer conscious conception coaching, which is a lot of, like I said, really my area of, if I should say, expertise and passion is along the lines of the parenting preparedness and conscious conception on the spiritual and mental, energetic levels. Also the minimizing toxic load and the self-care. Like, I guess that's all what I'm passionate about. But what I'm really supporting women with right now is exquisite self-care and the fear release and communication. In about a month, I finish a program with the Women's Integrative Health Institute on preconception detoxification. And I'm very much looking forward to supporting on those deeper levels of evidence-based hormone balancing, nutrition support. So
beautiful.
I'm really inspired about that. I also offer Birth Your Dream Life or Birth Your Dream Project coaching, which is not unlike conscious conception, because as I said, we have these soul babies, creative babies. I moved to Bali to meet my person, to have my baby, and to become a digital nomad. So I created a teacher training program and 30 instructional videos and such, and media that my partner and I created. So supporting women who want to take those steps. I'm really about fertility, embodiment, and leadership. And so that we can be who we are, like exactly what we want for our children, to remember who we are and to live that, and to fulfill our sacred mission. So I do believe that we all have a sacred mission, and my coaching offerings help to extract that into being.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. So this one question that I'm asking everybody that I interview is this: if you could go back in time when you had your first child, before you had your first child, and knowing all that you know now, whisper one piece of advice into your former self's ear, what would that be to help you on your journey?
Thank you. You said this one was going to be easy. It's like, I don't want to embarrass anyone again. I've already done that enough. I think it's the same thing, to receive all the support that you can. Like, know that you are worthy. You are worthy. Know that you are worthy.
That's beautiful. For me, that was definitely a really big part of my journey into motherhood, is around self-worth. So to hear you say that really resonates for me, and that was a lesson that I've learned. Like, I'm inherently worthy no matter the external circumstances.
Exactly. And sometimes I know that in my own paradigm, moving through patterns of neglect, like the opposite of neglect to me is to nourish. So giving yourself the ability that gift to nourish.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. So, thank you. And I have I have a self-care chart. So I don't know if you'll
Oh, yeah. I
preview.
saw that.
And it's kind of a bit yang in that, like, you chart and you X and everything. Like, I did this.
All right.
But to balance that doing with being. So it's not just about, like, I had a bath, I did it, check.
Right.
Drop into the gifts.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been so beautiful. I'm really, really happy that got to be a part of this. And yeah, I really appreciate your time and hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I love what you're doing, and I'm so grateful that you said yes to this bold to the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care, Jocelyn.
Peace.
Bye.